We go now to the actual program, which I'm simply the chair of this session. It's Alicia and Peter who are going to welcome you in the formal way. So I will ask first Alicia to say a few words.
I'm still holding. I just wanted to welcome you all here today to the university, and thank you all for coming on yet another Hot London day. Really to reiterate what I said last night, the Cyprus Centre of London Metropolitan University has been very actively involved in promoting Cyprus and affairs concerning Cyprus to a very wide audience since 1988. We have for many years hosted conferences and professional lectures both here in the UK and in Cyprus. We also have promoted exhibitions, organised seminars and book launches, again in London, Cyprus and also in Greece. We have done this both independently and as with collaborative institutes, and I'm very happy to see you around the table. A lot of our collaborators from previous events who continue very kindly to support us in all our activities. The aim of the Cyprus Centre is always to address the current concerns or areas of interest to Cyprus, and this has been reflected in a lot of our conference themes and our seminar and lecture themes. We aim with our conferences to get published, and hopefully if you all supply your papers following this conference, we will aim to publish the proceedings of this conference after today. And really that's what we're about. I have some information about the Cyprus Centre, so rather than going on too long, if anyone's interested further in our activities, I do have some information that I can pass out. So that's the Cyprus Centre. I want to welcome you all here today, and I will now pass over to Peter Droussiotis to welcome.
Thank you very much, Alicia, and thank you for hosting the event. Thank you to the university for making the arrangements, to you and John for all the work that you've done in the last few weeks, to make sure that this event happens. Your Excellency, my good friend, Cyprus High Commissioner Stefanou, Cyprus Government spokesman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a real pleasure, as well as a privilege for me, to be able to participate in this official opening of this important conference in Cyprus, which marks 50 years of independence for the island. I'm really delighted that the Cyprus Study Centre has collaborated with EPISTEME once again, as well as with others, and we've been able to create a flexible forum for discussion and debate on the challenges and opportunities facing the island. From what I've seen, the conference will no doubt cover a lot of ground, and I'm sure that the quality of the debate will be very high, viewing the caliber of the participants. Unfortunately, after 50 years of independence, a milestone which should have been marked mainly by a celebration of the achievements of the Republic and the opportunities ahead. The division of the island and Turkey's illegal military occupation of its northern part loom large on the island's horizon. I'd like to share some thoughts as part of the introduction to our conference deliberations. I personally believe that notwithstanding the obstacles that exist, there is a unique, if not a unique, certainly a rare opportunity in the light of the direct negotiations that are currently taking place. There is an opportunity to reunite Cyprus. The emergence of Dr. Davis Eroglu, a well-known hardliner, to the leadership of the Turkish Cypriot community, is not a good sign. Admittedly, that is not a good sign. But bearing in mind that Turkey makes all the big decisions in relation to Cyprus, my view is that a mutually acceptable, comprehensive settlement can be negotiated, provided that Turkey changes its position. I'm not so naive as not to recognize the many challenges which exist and which would no doubt follow, even if a solution was achieved. But it is equally true that the broad outline of a settlement is already on the table. If the two leaders are guided in the negotiations by the key principles already agreed, if Turkey abandons its intransigent position, and if there is no outside interference, then a solution should be eminently possible and certainly achievable within a manageable timescale. Just to remind ourselves, the aim is a comprehensive and durable settlement based on a bizonal, bicommunal federation and political equality as defined by the relevant UN resolutions and the principles upon which the EU is founded. The settlement must be based on a single sovereignty, international personality, and a single citizenship. This represents our vision of the future of the island and the future of the whole of the Cypriot people together. I believe that this is a vision that we in this room share together. Certainly the vision that I'm working for and which inspires me as a Cypriot and as president of EPISTEME and the Federation. The last proposition I want to make relates to us as British Cypriots. We have not done enough jointly, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots in this country, to support the great effort on the island to reach a solution and to contribute more meaningfully to the current process of direct negotiations. As I said last night, it is not, of course, our role as UK Cypriots to seek to negotiate a solution here in the UK, but we have a very significant contribution to make, intellectually and otherwise. And we can contribute in what is a benign environment in this country without the pressures that exist on the island, particularly in the occupied north. My friends, we can learn from the past, but we must not remain prisoners of it. The truth is that all communities suffered in Cyprus in the past, often in the hands of extremists, and importantly, often in the hands of people within their own communities. As a child living on the island in the 1970s, I felt as aggrieved when the Greek military junta staged a coup against President Makarios as I did when the Turkish army invaded a week later. To me, both events were illegitimate and both diminished me as a Cypriot and by extension the whole of Cyprus. The fact though is that the coup barely lasted a week, whereas the Turkish army of occupation remains ever present 36 years later. My friends, we can be proud of our heritage, but we can also take strength from the diverse, multiple identities which often define who we are. That is as true of Cyprus and Cypriots today as it is of the United Kingdom and the concept of Britishness, for example. We must not allow the standard of the lowest common denominator in politics, nationalism, paranoia, and extremism, call it what you like, to determine what happens on the island and to define its future. I look forward to the debate. I will not be able to be here this morning for this morning's session, but I will join you this afternoon. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now I would like to ask our High Commissioner, His Excellency Alexandros Zenon, to address you.
Thank you, Professor Charalambous. Ladies and gentlemen, I am particularly pleased to join you today in this Centre of Learning, the London Metropolitan University, to look back together at our 50 years of independent life. I would like to warmly thank the Cypriot Studies Centre of the University, which jointly with EPISTEME and its president, my good friend Peter Droussiotis, are organizing this conference, as well as for their many years of consistent support and their efforts in promoting and in raising awareness in the capital of the United Kingdom on issues related to Cyprus. I also wish to express my deep appreciation and gratitude to Professor Charalambous and to Dr. Chrysostomou for their long and dedicated service to the Centre. A warm welcome also to Mr. Stefanos Stefanou, the government spokesman of the Republic of Cyprus, who despite his heavy and busy schedule found the time to travel to London to address this conference, as well as to all the speakers who will be participating. All of us, I believe, look forward to an insightful and interesting discussion as we take stock of the first half-century of our Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, 50 years in the course of history is perhaps a tiny fragment of time. In the case of Cyprus and of its people, however, with all the events, happy or tragic, that have marked us since 1960, 50 years seem very long. Cyprus became an independent and sovereign state after a 4-year-long national liberation struggle against the then colonial power, Great Britain. Arms were the last recourse, after all political and diplomatic means and efforts had been exhausted and failed, without the British government demonstrating any sign of flexibility. The demand of the people was then for self-determination, which was generally interpreted as leading to union enosis with Greece. This objective, as we all know, was not attained. We compromised with guaranteed independence under an imposed, dysfunctional and controversial constitution lacking any democratic legitimacy. Significantly, the agreements which gave Cyprus its independence were signed in London on 19 February 1959, coincidentally at the Lancaster House, just a few yards away from St. James's Square, where the High Commission premises stand today. The first president, Archbishop Makarios, pursued a policy aiming at building a free and democratic state with social justice combined with economic stability and development, which would provide prosperity for all its citizens, Greeks and Turks alike. This happy period was unfortunately short-lived. Although I have done my doctoral research and written my thesis on that period of our contemporary history, focusing in particular on the unsuccessful attempt to amend the Constitution, I will avoid the temptation to expand further on the events that led and caused the 1963 crisis. But with the wisdom of hindsight, I think it would be correct to say that the leadership of the time, the leadership of both communities, do not appear to have made an honest and exhaustive effort to implement that Constitution, despite its complications, its shortcomings, and its largely undemocratic provisions. This Constitution, though, has accompanied Cyprus's fortunes, for good and ill, for 50 years, and is today the shield of the legitimacy of the state. Mutual suspicion and bad faith prevailed at the time, not always unjustifiably. The psychological element was underestimated or even ignored, and I mean the psychological dependence of the Turkish Cypriots from the provisions of the Constitution, which politically and legally balance the fact that they are the less populous community. A sense of injustice prevailed among Greek Cypriots, who alone had fought against the colonial power and then saw the Turkish Cypriots benefiting, in their view disproportionately, from the newly acquired independence, with external factors and interferences making Cypriots overlook their collective true interests. The collapse appeared thus inevitable. The degree of responsibility was certainly not the same, but I'm wondering whether this really matters today. Allow me here a parenthesis. While researching years ago the British National Archives at the Public Record Office in Kew Gardens, I found two interesting reports of Her Majesty's Ambassador in Ankara addressed to the Secretary of State in London. The first one dated 14 October 1963, and dates matter in this case, recounts a meeting between the Secretary General of the Turkish Foreign Ministry, Ambassador Tului, with the Counselor of the American Embassy there, Mr. Klock. I quote from the document. Klock said that he was struck by the fact that whereas at their September meeting Tului had made no mention of partition, on this occasion he referred to it in some detail and spoken very much on the same lines as he had done to me. Tului had even drawn a rough map of Cyprus with a line dividing the island into two, running from north to south. Tului also told Klock that under the Turkish partition plan, the Turkish sector would of course be annexed to Turkey, as the sector by itself was certainly not a viable economic unity. Unquote. Equally revealing is also the second document, written by the same British diplomat to the Foreign Secretary in London, recounting his meeting with Secretary General Tului on the 16th December 1963. I quote, Tului then added the revealing remark, even if Küçük is sometimes willing to make concessions, and that was after President Makarios presented his proposals, the decisions as to what is best for the Turkish community in Cyprus rests not with him, but with the Council of 8 or 10 Turks headed by Denktaş. In other words, hinted Tului, when Küçük talks to the High Commissioner, he may say things which represent only his personal views. Unquote. I need not remind that Dr. Fazil Küçük was the democratically and unopposed elected Vice President of the Republic and the leader of the Turkish community, while Mr. Denktaş has always been the man of Ankara and Cyprus. These are only two of the many similar examples in the British National Archives. It is obvious that what happened in Cyprus in July 1974, despite our own mistakes, was planned concretely and in detail in Ankara at least 10 years before. The Taksim policy, partition policy, pursued by Turkey, to which the government spokesman extensively referred yesterday, was not a novelty. What is also very clear, and I want to underline this, is that the Turkish Cypriots have never been a genuine concern for Turkey. They were and they still are the convenient pretext and the victims of strategic and security considerations and policies of successive Turkish governments. The situation hasn't changed much ever since. Important decisions concerning Cyprus are still taken in Ankara by what has become commonly known as the deep state. The difficult decades between the mid-60s and the mid-70s, with intercommunal troubles, the meddling of foreign powers, the constant threat of a Turkish armed intervention, which brought Greece and Turkey 3 times to the brink of war, threatening the stability of the southeast flank of NATO, culminated in the summer of 1974 with the Turkish invasion, the consequences of which are still with us 36 years on. These consequences were of truly gigantic dimensions. Massive violations of human rights and the loss of life, 37% of the territory under military occupation, 1/3 of the population refugees in their own country, 70% of the economic resources lost. But we survived. Our people found the strength to rebuild their shattered lives, to face the challenge and to overcome what was a national tragedy within a few years after the calamity. In 2004, another monumental event, positive this time, was inscribed into the history of the Republic. Cyprus, indeed its entire territory, including the Turkish occupied areas, became a full and equal partner in the European Union. Since then, we have been witnessing many changes in the state and in our society, The most significant one being the admission to the Economic and Monetary Union and the adoption of the euro as our national currency in 2008. But in my view, the most important consequence of the accession to the EU is that now the solution to the occupation problem should be in conformity not only with international law and the relevant Security Council resolutions, but also, and most importantly, with the European acquis and the principles upon which the EU was founded, as very correctly Peter mentioned just before me. This means a democratic system of government, full respect of the human rights of all citizens. It also means a viable, lasting and functional state within the European Union. Furthermore, and this is very important for our Turkish Cypriot compatriots to understand, the European acquis provides the best and most credible and efficient guarantee for their security, their political, their cultural and their religious rights, while at the same time it eases the concerns of the Greek Cypriots with regard to the proposed Turkish guarantees. I'm not going to refer to the current renewed efforts of the President of the Republic to achieve a principled and agreed solution on the future of the island in the negotiations with the leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. Mr. Stefanou was more authoritatively enlightening on that yesterday. What I would like to say in conclusion is that we do stand ready to face the challenges of the future in a reunified Cyprus and in interaction and in cooperation with the Turkish Cypriots, sharing together with them the benefits and the responsibilities from our membership in the European Union and the world community. In doing so, we ask our friends and compatriots in the United Kingdom to join us as we try to achieve the objective which many generations of Cypriots have dreamt of before us. Thank you.
Thank you, High Commissioner, for this most illuminating overview. I'm very pleased to see you here, and I hope it's not just the first visit, many more will.
It's already there, the second.
I always admire our High Commissioner's ability to promote Cyprus. I have been able to witness a few activities, cultural, political, elsewhere, and it's really nice to have him here. Now I go to our next speaker, which is going to be talk very precisely, because he has traveled from Cyprus, especially to give his presentation last night. I know he's extremely busy, but if you kindly give us a couple of bullet points of what he said last night. Mr. Stefanou, the Cyprus government spoke.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me say how happy I am to be here with you today at this conference. I thank and I congratulate the organizers for the initiative to organize events centered around Cyprus. It is not, to my mind, an exaggeration to say that through such initiatives, Cyprus is highlighted and attention is drawn to it, not merely as a place with a long-standing political problem. Fortunately, Cyprus is known as the country with a huge political problem. This is true. But we like to know and learn for Cyprus about other issues and the achievements of the work of the people of Cyprus. So, the long-standing political problem, which of course is also significant and has positive effects, but also as a contemporary and forward-looking state with much to offer as an active member of the European Union and of the international community. Through your work, Cyprus, its successes, interests, concerns and also its long-standing political problem are brought to the attention of a wider public in this great metropolis of London. This has many positive repercussions for our small but dynamic and forward-looking country. First and foremost, it helps people understand that Cyprus is not just a case study in a political handbook. It is, despite its political problem, a very good place to live and work, a great place to do business, and democratic, stable, economically flourishing state, despite the unavoidable effects of the global financial crisis, a full and equal member of the EU, to which it has much to offer, as the most distant point in the Union, in close proximity to the Middle East, with every state of which it maintains excellent relations. Probably we are the unique case in the European Union as a country that has excellent relations with Israel and with the Arab world. The Israelis know very well that Cyprus supports the goals and the struggle of the Palestinian people, and they understand that this is the stable position of the Cyprus Republic, as well as the Arab world and the Palestinians know about the excellent relations that Cyprus Republic maintains with Israel. Cyprus has the capacity to act as a bridge between the European Union and the Middle East, and when Cyprus' problem is solved, which is a target we are working towards with all our mind and hope it will sooner rather than later, then Cyprus undoubtedly come into its own as a bridge of peace and prosperity in the region. Conferences in general are a positive and constructive approach towards ensuring that the world of knowledge of political and social thinkers and analysts can contribute to the democratic and just resolution of political and social problems. We wish and believe that the Cyprus problem will be a beneficiary of this process, and that is one of the reasons why I try always to respond positively to invitations to participate in such conferences and exchange opinions and ideas with other people who believe in the positive contribution of this practice. And I would like to underline the participation of Turkish Cypriot compatriots here. It's very important for us Greek Cypriots to hear and to try to understand their concerns on the Cyprus issue, their way of approach the problem, as it is very important for the Turkish Cypriots to know how the Greek Cypriots understand the concerns of their own and of the Turkish Cypriots as well. I wish you every success in your endeavors today, and I hope and trust that the discussion that will involve here and the conclusions you draw from today's deliberations will be beneficial for Cyprus and for all of us who work and struggle for a unified island, for a unified country, for a common homeland of the Greek Cypriots and the Turkish Cypriots. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanou, and good luck to you and to the government for the efforts they make to unite Cyprus. And also, I want to stress this point. You have always been lucky at this centre, and perhaps in the whole of London, that Turkish and Greek Cypriots have the opportunity to meet. And through that, a lot of the problems disappear. If you talk to somebody, you resolve problems. If you don't talk, in Cyprus, unfortunately, there is pressure which opposes any communication reason. Progress is not made. But here, we express opinion, we might have differences, but by talking, we reduce the differences and create a very workable atmosphere. Before I conclude this session, I'd just like you to note that in your handout there is a message from two Cypriots who worked very hard together, the mayors of Nicosia, who we were hoping that they would join us. Unfortunately, they couldn't, but they sent us a message and a cartoon, which illustrates the problem they faced in trying to communicate in Nicosia.